Hello and welcome to this information session on handwriting. I want kids to get a grip on their handwriting. My name is Berry Johnston and I'm an occupational therapist at Little Peaks Occupational Therapy for Kids. This information session today will cover what the building blocks of successful handwriting are and also what we need to consider when we're looking at the actual task and functional role of handwriting, and that includes the grips, pencil pressure, letter formations, neatness and some compensatory techniques. So where does it all begin? Where does that skill of handwriting that develops as we enter in the school years, where does that all start? And you might have seen this House of OT before, which is one of my favourite analogies for childhood development, where we talk about the body developing from the sensory systems, and that's what we're all born with, but that's what forms a very important foundation of our development. A child then goes on and puts all these building blocks together, and you can see that handwriting is actually one of those skills that is technically a building block. But what is different with handwriting is that a lot of these other areas here feed into the development of this skill and function of handwriting. The actual building blocks of handwriting success include core strength or postural stability, proprioception or body awareness, motor planning, being able to see in action and copy it, ocular motor skills and fine motor skills. So these are all portrayed here in a pyramid form because they all support effective handwriting. You might have difficulties in one area and still be able to be quite efficient in your handwriting, but you might find that it has a significant impact on the speed and productivity you have later on in your schooling career. So we're going to go through the items that form the building blocks of handwriting success one by one. Starting with core strength. Core strength really is postural stability, the ability to hold your body upright and remain efficient and have energy throughout the day. Children who have poor core strength might slump at their desk, fidget or wiggle, and they might fatigue easily. We know that if we build up our core strength, we'll have more energy and be more efficient to last longer through the day. We also know that the longer our bodies can last in the day, then that gives us more opportunity for learning and hence more opportunity for handwriting success. We can test child's core strength by looking at these two key postures of the dead ant and Superman. That looks at our ability to sit and maintain upright posture, but then also extend out of it. A lot of children are often good at this one because we do tend to sit more, but children need to practice this one so they have balance on both sides of their body, which makes it easier for them to maintain posture and then handwrite efficiently. Proprioception is another building block of handwriting success, and that really refers to our internal body awareness. And that's a sensation that's found deep within our joints around our body. It helps us be efficient so we don't have to think about where our body parts are, we just know it. When they don't have a great sense of proprioception, the child might be distracted by what they're trying to learn, but in relation to actual pencil skills, they might find that they press too hard on their pencil, they might be breaking leads on their pencil, they might not exert enough pressure on their pencil. They might elevate their elbow off the table and they might elevate their wrist off the table. The way we assess this very briefly is looking at their pressure on the pencil, but we do a quick test where we see if the child can touch their finger to their thumb with their eyes open and shut, and that can give us some insight into how well they know how their body works. The other skill that is required is good, smooth ocular motor skills, so the ability to use our eyes in a smooth manner. This involves being able to isolate our eye muscles from our head and our trunk muscles. Ocular motor skills help us in reading by following the lines of words without losing your space and looking to the board and then back to your desk for copying. It's really important that we know if a child can converge and use both eyes together and whether they can track and have smooth movements when they track an object. When we identify there might be challenges here, we can say, well, that might be having an impact on their ability to write neatly on a line. Motor planning is another key factor that really impacts on letter formation. So we see motor planning in gross motor skills and coordination and fine motor skills, but it has a really direct impact on letter formation. Some children might see uncoordinated and sit back, but when they have difficulty with letter formation, that is often a challenge with motor planning. For those children, we need to give a lot of whole body input, so we give lots of verbal cues to how to form the letter, visual cues, but we might even need to do hand-over-hand support to help them learn the letter formations. And fine motor skills is another one of those building blocks for handwriting success, and that's just the ability to use our hands and fingers together. And I think that makes a lot of sense when we're thinking about using a pencil. What's important is that a child initially learns how to isolate their pointer finger. Then they learn how to use a pincer grip, so that's their index finger and thumb together, like in the picture there. They also need to learn how to use both of their hands together or have bilateral integration, be able to cross the midline of their body, also have adequate shoulder stability and shoulder strength. So pencil grip isn't just about a tripod grip or a quadrupod grip. It's about looking at all these factors that contribute to overall fine motor skills. Now, when it comes to writing skills specifically, we're looking at the child's grip of the pencil, their pressure on the pencil, their wrist position, and their shoulder position. And we also look at their ability to copy these pre-writing shapes before we even enter into the letter writing domain. So the grips we're looking at are tripod grip, and the tripod grip is what's demonstrated here, where 3 points of contact are on the pencil. Quadrupod grip refers to 4 points of contact on the pencil, and a whole hand grip can refer to either a power grip, where the pencil rests in the palm, or a dagger or digital pronate grip, where the pencil still rests in the palm of the hand, but the thumb is closer to the page rather than the little finger. We're also looking at the wrist position. Is it extended backwards, which is appropriate? Is it flexed or is it hooked? And we're looking at whether the fingers do the work, so is it dynamic or is it static and the wrist is doing the work? A really efficient pencil grip is a tripod or quadrupod dynamic grip with an extended wrist. The wrist should be remaining on the table surface, as should the elbow. So here we have some varieties of functional grips and some non-functional grips. So this is the digital pronate, a power, a dagger grip. This is not functional. They've got 4 fingers on the pencil and it's held at mid-shaft. This one has a thumb wrap. Now that doesn't mean it's not functional, but it might mean that they're just doing that for extra stability. You can see here they're held at the very tip of the pencil, which can limit efficiency. And this one, the fingers are in extension, so they're not flexing enough, which gives them limited control over the pencil, and their thumb is flat, which also limits dynamic movement. And this is an ideal grip we're seeing here as well. So some pointers to help children learn how to hold their pencil correctly. You can pick up your pencil, use your pointer and your thumb, let it dangle. It's step number 1. Use your other hand to rotate the pencil around until it reaches its pillow where it gently lays down. Or you could do the nip, flip and grip. So really about getting less fingers on the pencil is what makes it more efficient. A lot of people often ask, do I need a pencil grip? Well, not really. Pencil grips are a developmental thing. So a lot of children, by the time they get to kindy and are 4 years of age, they will have developed a static tripod or quadrupod grip. But what you should be looking at is there too many fingers of the pencil. When there's too many fingers in the pencil, you could try something like just a pom-pom or marble tucked in their palm, held by their little and index finger, or this device here, which is called a handy writer. And that pulls the wrist back into extension, the pencil into the web space, and it has a charm the child has to hold on to. And that gets the other fingers out the way and focuses on the wrist position. Aside from this, if you're contemplating a pencil grip, I'd suggest discussing this with an occupational therapist rather than trying a one-size-fits-all approach. So the other thing we're looking at is pencil pressure. So we know that pencil pressure can be excessive, adequate, or insufficient. So some children write very lightly and some write very heavily. And that can be strongly correlated to proprioception, knowing their sense of body awareness. So they may push harder because they need more feedback, or they may push too lightly because they're not getting enough feedback. So the key for this is giving lots of proprioceptive feedback prior to writing activities. That could be as simple as praying hands, where you push both hands together, standing up and trying to push the table into the ground. What this also relates to is shoulder stability. And shoulder stability relates to core stability. So you might find these children that push too hard on their pencils may have some limitations with core strength. So focusing on getting the pelvis strong and stable and then doing some shoulder stability exercises is really helpful for this. A good example of an activity to do is vertical writing. So drawing on the whiteboard or chalkboard where it's a vertical surface is really good at improving shoulder stability. So as I mentioned, things to help with letter pressure, praying hands before writing, pushing them hard, picking up cornflakes with tweezers, because if you push too hard, the cornflake crumbles. If you push too lightly, the cornflake drops out. Putting bubble wrap or felt under the paper, because if they push too hard it will fall through. Vibrating or wiggle pens. I know Kmart had some available at one stage for about $5. Even having an arch lever folder turn on its side so it creates an angled surface that can push the wrist back into a good position. And having vertical writing here. It doesn't have to be writing, even any vertical activity for drawing as well. So letter formation, what is it we're focusing on? Well, we really need to focus on the key, having successful pre-writing patterns being formed before we move on to letters. And a great program for this is Peggy Lego, which breaks the pencil movements breaks letters down into 7 pencil movements. Each pattern has a story that goes with it, a gross motor activity, a sensory or a tactile activity, and then a fine motor activity before the writing activity. These patterns include tall man, starts at the top, pulls down and stops. Small man starts in the middle, pulls down and stops. Sideways to the magic land. Jack and Jill go up the hill and down the hill. Over the gate, under the gate, and starts with a click. If you'd like more information on this, Little Peeps has a session on Peggy Lego program, which can provide you with more detail. Once we've developed letter formation and that's all accurate, we look at writing neatness. And writing neatness is something that I investigate more when a child's entering to year 1 and 2 level. What we're looking at with writing neatness, can they place it on the line? Have they got adequate spacing between letters and words? And is their letter sizing appropriate? So one good technique is having the cat writing approach. So you class letters according to the cat's body, head and body, or body and tail. Or you could use the tree, sky and ground approach. This is great because you can do it on black and white photocopying, whereas this does require a bit more work to colour photocopy papers. So here's an example of grouping letters and how they are sized according to the cat's body, body and tail, or head and body. Another good strategy is to self-edit their work for writing. Instead of having the adult could actually incidentally make mistakes and the child has to spot the errors and corrects them, but then the children can self-edit their work, find their best letter and why it is the best, and find the one that might need some help and then write it and retry it. And using visual supports such as this one can be a great way to get them motivated to check their works. So it covers the body aspects, but also their writing neatness. When children are still struggling with forming letters and writing speed when they're in year 3, I think that's the time when you can start considering some alternatives for handwriting. So you need to look at their letter skills and knowledge as well. So not just can they not write the letters, but if they've got really good letter and sound awareness and reading skills, and they've probably got the good abilities to use technology and assistive devices. So you need to consider, do they recognise letters? Can they scan a keyboard? And is writing a burden, but their knowledge is really good? And I think those questions indicate that technology might be a suitable alternative for them. iPads have some great apps available for letter formation, so I'd consider having a search and seeing ones that might suit children early on, so you can still introduce the concept of apps and technology and typing early on in your child's writing career. Thank you for listening to this session on handwriting. Please feel free to check out Little Peep's other videos, and thank you for listening.